Let's have a look at Elementor's interface. We're going to add a new page first. We're going to call it home, and then we're going to click edit with Elementor. It's very important you do this whenever you create a new page. Otherwise, you will go straight into the WordPress classic editor and you won't be using the Elementor widgets or features at all. Let's just hit skip for now. So this is a blank page. And if you're not familiar with the interface of Elementor, please take your time to get associated with it. If you have followed the guidance, you'll be viewing the Elementor top bar. Let's just go over the items. If we click on the E, we get a drop-down menu. This will allow us to access the templates in the theme builder. We'll be looking at that later on when we're addressing the header and the footer. We can also look at the history. So if we have dragged in widgets, modified CSS, written text, modified text, we will have the history over here. We can roll back at any time. We also have an option for user preferences. So do you want to work in light mode, which is what we already are, or do you want to switch to dark mode? Please select what is your preference. Depending on your size of screen, you could make this sidebar be quite big from default whenever you open it. We'll leave it at the standard 300. This does depend on your size of screen, and I would recommend that you do not make this too big. Otherwise, it may be misleading as to what you're actually viewing on screen and when you're viewing it in live. I recommend leaving all of these options as they are, except this bottom one, which is navigation. And I would say that when you do leave, you may want to go to the WordPress dashboard because that's where a lot of the settings and items are if you are starting to move around between your posts, your pages, and your templates. There are a range of keyboard shortcuts as well. However, I find that when I'm working on a website or editing, I prefer to just click with the mouse. If we click on the plus sign, we can now access the elements or widgets, and we have a range over here. We can either drag them in and they will now appear, or if you have already added in a container, go and hit the plus sign and just click it, and it will drop it into the container. We're going to come back onto the navigator in a moment. We have the site settings toggle, and we will be visiting this mainly for the global colors and the global fonts. If we click global colors, this is where we can access colors that we can generalize across the website. So we could add in a color, make a modification, and it will then apply that modification throughout your website. Again, we will address this later on. We have global fonts where we can assign font families. Again, we will address this later on. We have the typography. I would not make many changes here, and I will discuss that later on when we address this. We have settings for buttons. Maybe we want to assign a standard color. So every time we drag a button widget onto the screen, it will take on this color. Or maybe we want to go and set the text color as well. And we can also adjust the typography. We will discuss this more when we're actually building websites. We can do the same for images, form fields, and also for background. So maybe we want all of our pages from default to be dark. When it comes to building websites, I don't recommend touching almost any of these except global colors, global fonts. We may touch the typography, but we'll address that when we need to. But we will definitely be touching the custom CSS. I strongly recommend that you don't complicate how you build websites by adjusting a lot of these. Custom CSS, global colors, and global fonts, and maybe typography should be sufficient. At any time when you're building, you can click on the structure and it will show you the navigation layout of your page. At the moment, we have a container that you can see here, and inside of there, we have a heading and an image. As we start to build, and I'm just going to duplicate to show you, if we go to this container, I hit the plus sign, and I now go and add in a text editor, and we get rid of the image, you can see the layout that we've built here. This is container number 2, and this is container number 1. And just to make it clearer, I'll get rid of the image again. And in terms of container number 1, we'll go and add in a background color like that. So container 1 has a heading, and container 2 has heading and text editor. Please don't worry about what I've shown you right now, because we will be building our design page properly step by step later on. Over here, you'll see the name of the page, and you can click to add a new page. I recommend that you actually go back into WordPress dashboard when you are adding in new pages or posts, just to make it easier to manage. We have an option over here called page settings. This one is actually quite useful. You can modify the title. You can change the status to be draft or private or published. You can go and add in a featured image. So if at some stage you were going to share this on a post and you don't want it just to bring over a dummy image or an image that you might have used elsewhere on the website, maybe it might be an image for social media sharing, you can go and drop that in. But what you really want to consider is on the page, do you want the title to be present? So if you don't want the word home to be there, I would go and hit hide title. Now, currently we have not built a header or a footer template. So this page will demonstrate a standard Elementor header footer. But for now, while we're building, until I bring over the header footer, I'm going to go and hit Elementor canvas. And you'll now notice our content has gone to the top of the page. When we come to build an actual header template, we will enable or switch this back to be default. Just to demonstrate that the history was working, if we go back over here and click history, you're going to now see some of the changes that I did start to make, and we have also got revisions as well. So if you want to flick back to a previous version rather than undoing many history items, you could use that option. Over here at the top, you can switch between different breakpoints. So we can go from desktop to tablet to mobile. But we're going to try and get you to build responsively so that you don't have to do too many modifications when you're moving around. You will have to check as you are building your website. What if you want more breakpoints? So you want to now have a bigger desktop, or you want to have a laptop screen, or you want to have a horizontal mobile. What you do is go over to site settings, go to layout, and when you scroll down, you will see breakpoints. The standard ones are obviously mobile and tablet. To ensure that you have the facility to add more, you have to go back into your WordPress Elementor settings. Go over to Elementor, go to settings, go to features, scroll down until you get to additional breakpoints, and we're going to make that be active. Go and save the changes. Go back over to pages, and this time, rather than clicking edit, click edit with Elementor. If you click edit, it will just take you into the WordPress Classic editor. But don't worry, you will have a button at the top that says edit with Elementor. If I go and click edit for home, we will have a button over here to take us back. It can be quite risky if you keep doing this because it could break what you have built on the page. So please remember to click edit with Elementor. Let's go back over to our site settings, scroll down to layout, and now when we go to breakpoint, we can go and add some more in. So if I go and click the plus sign, I may decide to go for mobile landscape, and it goes and adds in a breakpoint. So when I now hit save changes and we reload the page, we have an additional breakpoint added. To be honest, I prefer to only work with desktop, tablet, and mobile. So for the purpose of this tutorial and what we'll be doing throughout the course, I am going to get rid of the mobile landscape. The more breakpoints you add, the more complex you make your entire editing process. We have a finder at the top, so maybe you want to find a particular widget or feature, but I would like to think that you're going to get all the knowledge you need from this course. Clicking the help icon will take you to the help documentation provided by Elementor. But please do check out a lot of our tutorials on our YouTube website. If you want to understand more about what's happening with Elementor, you can click that and it will tell you about new features such as AI or some of the improvements they're making with performance. And of course, at any time you want to preview what your page would look like on a live screen, click preview changes. But a quick tip to help you out is that when you are editing, you will notice over here some chevrons pointing to the left. Anytime, just click that and it will hide away the editor and it will bring it back. But if you have enabled certain features that you won't see, such as animation, until you're viewing it on a live screen, go and click the live and you will see it in action. Whenever you make any changes to your website, the publish option will become visible for you. When you click that, it's publishing the website and it saves it as well in terms of the changes you've made. I do recommend you use this. Now there is an arrow over here. This allows you to save the entire page as a template or a draft. We will look into that when we are building items throughout the course, but right now, just hitting publish should be enough.